Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we clean up my hosta garden during the fall. So let's go. Did I say fall? Because honestly, it feels like winter. The temperature right now, according to weather.com, feels like 37 degrees Fahrenheit. It is pretty cold out here, but I'm not going to let it stop me because I still have gardening jobs I need to do. And I figured what better motivation than turning that camera on, bringing you along with me, and just showing you how I clean up my hosta garden. But first, I'm going to pop up on the screen what this hosta garden behind me looks like when it's in its glory and what all the hosta leaves look like in this space. It looks so pretty, and it's a space I really enjoy in my garden. Hosta leaves really should be cut back in the fall time. You don't want to wait until the spring because many times certain pests like slugs like to lay their eggs underneath all of the leaves. So it's really better to just collect all that leaf litter. Some years I cut back the leaves just at the end of the season when they're starting to turn over. Other years, like this year, I wait until now to come in here and clean it up. I wait until all the leaves are pretty much turned to mush and have died back to the ground. So let's get this job done as quick as possible, shall we? I did not want to come outside, and it's just so easy with the time change and the weather change to just stay inside. However, I know what this is a job that I had to do. Could I wait until spring? I mean, I could. Definitely there were years, many years ago, when I would just leave everything here in terms of the hosta leaves and tackle it whenever I had time. But anything that I can do now is one less job for me to do in the springtime. So I'm just using this small little hand rake just to get some of the debris. Now I know that some of the hosta leaves will come with it, but many of them won't, but that's okay. So I can just come in and tug the leaves, and they're very easily coming out at this point. So I don't worry too much about pulling a hosta plant out. This area also has a ton of acorns. So while I'm raking everything, I'm also lifting any acorns that have fallen. Especially with these little hosta, it's just easier to use that small hand rake. And in case you're wondering what kind of hosta these are Lakeside Zinger. They're considered a miniature hosta. They're really, really pretty around the trees during the summer and the fall months. These were all the acorns that I was telling you about. Many acorns. After I come in and basically clean up little sections at a time, like this section over here, then what I can do is come in with my hand pruners and just cut back basically where the old flower stalks were. It really just comes down to time. If I had time to cut back the hosta when they first were starting to turn over, I would have done it at that time. But I didn't get to it, so better late than ever. At least we're doing it together now. And that's the great thing with gardening is you can tackle things at your leisure when it works with your schedule. Just because you see someone doing something in their garden doesn't mean that that's the right time or the only time to do something in the garden. It's just one of the many times that you can tackle that job. However, it is good to know the best practices, right? So the best practice with hosta is to cut it back in the fall because, like I mentioned earlier, the certain pests like to lay their eggs underneath the leaves. But it's not the end of the world if you don't get to it, my friends. We've had a lot of deer and a lot of squirrel activity, but I tell you, they can only eat so many acorns. So what I end up doing with all the acorns that I collect is actually I take all of this and I throw it way out in the woods so that the critters can still enjoy them for the winter months. Now that we got that one tree done, I'm going to do the same exact job because I have more of the Lakeside Zinger Mini-Hosta around a number of the trees as we head towards my backyard. Once I'm done with those, we'll move on to the next task. I filled up a whole entire 5-gallon bucket just for those Mini-Hosta. And look how much tidier that looks. So at least that is done. And it made sense for me to basically get down on my hands and knees and be careful a little bit with how I was handling that, because the hosta are small and they're just tucked in around these trees. But now we have much larger hosta and a much larger space to tackle. So for that, I definitely don't want to just be down on my hands and knees using that small hand rake. We got to pull out the big guns and tackle this big space now. While I was working, I was looking down at these gloves, and I should probably talk about them. They're not gardening gloves. They're more like winter gloves. They're my husband's, so they're huge on me. If you have garden gloves that you use in cold weather, please let me know what the brand is, something that you highly recommend, because the holidays are around the corner, and I think I need to put that on my holiday list. I was going to use this small little rake that I have, but I think it actually makes sense to use a larger rake because this is a larger area. And even though this is a larger rake, the one thing I don't like about it is this is plastic. And normally I prefer to use a metal rake because it's just easier because there is mulch in this bed. But I'm going to test this rake out and I'm just going to see how it works for us. There are also a lot of acorns here. So I'm looking to get as much of the hosta leaves as possible, as well as the acorns. And then I know I'm going to have to come back in and just pull the old foliage back that's left behind of the hosta plants. There are also little twigs and sticks that have fallen because we do have trees right above the hosta garden here. But actually this is doing a pretty good job, and there really isn't a ton of mulch in this area, so I'm not too concerned about pulling the mulch. And then I can go ahead and just lift any of the hosta leaves that the rake didn't take. And with this particular hosta, I'm not able to easily pull it. So instead I'm going to use my hand pruners and just cut it back. That's just the way it is. Sometimes there are certain hosta that die back later than other hostas, and this was one of them. And then I can come in and just cut back any of the little sticks that were left behind from the spent blooms. Okay, change of plan. I'm going to bring you in for a closer look, and I'm going to show you a problem I'm running into and how I'm going to fix this problem. In a number of areas of my hosta garden, this is my nemesis, the acorns. So rather than trying to collect the acorns right now, because that's just, in my opinion, a whole nother task, I just need to focus on the hosta. And if I find any sticks along the way or twigs, I can take those. But yeah, no, I am not going to collect every single one of these acorns. We'll be here forever. So let's just focus on the hosta for today. When I work in my gardens, I sometimes want to just do a perfect job. And what I mean by perfect is cut back all the hosta leaves, cut back all the sticks that are in the hosta plants, pick up every single acorn, pick up every single oak leaf that's fallen from a tree. But even though that all sounds great, then there's reality. What is the ultimate goal that we're trying to accomplish? The ultimate goal is to cut back all the hosta leaves. And we already talked about why it's important for us to do this. So I am just going to keep on going with cutting back the hosta leaves. I'm not going to be talking much anymore because honestly, it's so cold out and my nose is running. That's the honest truth. I love talking in the summertime when I'm working in the garden, but the last thing you want to hear me doing right now is like that. So I'm just going to keep on going and I'll show you what this looks like when I am all done. Work smarter, not harder, right? I'm so glad I changed the plan and aborted mission when it came to trying to pick up every single acorn. We never would have gotten this job done. I got it done so much faster when I just put the acorns aside, didn't even look at them, and just focused at the task on hand, which was just cleaning up all the hosta leaves. So I want to walk you around a little bit and show you in here, but it's like a clean slate. It looks so nice and it feels so good to get this job done. But I want to show you a couple of things in here. This is a nasty weed and I'm going to have to tackle it in the springtime. I don't want to cut it back because actually I want to be able to see it, remember it, and I know it's going to die back in the wintertime, but I have to get after this weed. I don't know the name of it, but I know that it's part of the family of weeds that really spreads quite vigorously. So I'm going to have to tackle that next spring. You can see two piles. Let me present you with pile number one. For right now, I'm just going to leave the acorns there and all my little furry creatures that live in the woods. If they want, they can come and help themselves at these little acorns. And then over here is the second pile. Something else I wanted to mention, there were just two hosta that also just barely died back. So I had to use my pruners and cut those back. And that took a little bit of time, but I got that done. And some of the sticks that were left behind where the blooms were, I tried to pull at them. Sometimes they came out pretty easily and sometimes they didn't. I did not worry about getting the rest of them today. I can come back in and do that job. Sometimes you just have to pick and choose your battles, right? And well, we did that. We got a lot done today. And it's amazing to look at this space and think that there's nothing here when in fact there are a ton of hosta asleep underground. So fall cleanup continues here in New Hampshire, but it's not as much as some of you are doing right now. I'm looking at the weather reports and some of my friends out in the west and the south are enjoying really beautiful weather. Personally, this is the type of weather I like to be snuggled under a blanket with my cats, but I know that there are jobs that still need to be done. So I'll bring you along as I continue tackling little small jobs in my garden. But before you know it, the ground is going to freeze and then no more outdoor gardening. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some ideas when it comes to cleaning up your own gardens. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.